fixed fuel price for both unleaded and diesel. That's coming to the end, so we're trying to time the market as best we can after the winter and before the summer driving season. So I would expect in the next few weeks we'll be able to lock in a number, but we're projecting a $50,000 increase as crude oil has gone up from in the high 80s when we locked in, the mid to high 80s, to now the high 90s. It was over 100 this morning. I believe it was $100.62 this morning. So that's reflective in the refining. That's why propane has gone up, because that's a reflection of a byproduct of oil. So streetlights, we're trying to keep that same. We are working on a streetlight program. That's one of the things that Bill Scheer will be quarterbacking. He's our special projects guy. He's going to talk with Water and Sewer about the electronic meters, radio meters, for the water department, so that we can not have to go out and read every meter. We can drive a truck down the road and it picks up the read, or we can even get it from the office downstairs. So that'll be a labor-saving device, but that's one of the things that projects that Bill will be working on. And then you see Losip and Town Aid Road. We're guessing at those numbers. Those numbers represent what the governor came out in his initial budget, and those will be a reflective of the legislative session. As you see, last year they were a little bit different, a little bit higher. They've been throttled back by the governor in his proposed budget speech, but that's a subject of negotiation. You may have read the paper. I was up in Hartford yesterday trying to defend our pilot funds and to get that $83,000 back. So all of this is in that type of mix as we move forward. And any specific questions beyond that brief overview I've given you, I'm sure Joe can get you the details.
Any questions from the board?
Yes. So the 50% salary transfer for the two department heads is what Mike's salary was before. So what Water and Sewers now is based historically on what used to happen before, except for one person.
Exactly. Now it's
Okay.
two. Yep.
And I know, Chuck, you have a lot of goodies there on the list that you want this year, right?
Yeah, I've got a big Christmas list. And I've been a good boy.
Are we going to talk about capital? Do you want to? Did you bring the
I don't know, but they're here and they probably,
things with you tonight?
I did not bring it up.
maybe another day.
So why don't we, when we go to capital, because I want to really go through that and have Chuck really talk to you about how many times we're using each vehicle as it moves from the department. And overall, the theory is we buy new stuff for the people who need new stuff, and that's public safety. And then it gets trickled down from there to the departments, and eventually
three or four.
It
Do you
gets
know
to
if
auction.
you have a 1-ton truck for Board of Ed that you,
Well, Board of Ed now buys their own.
they put one in there for a request.
Yeah, they buy their own vehicles, it comes out of their budget, we allow them to piggyback on our acquisition program, but the payments come from them and they determine. I would love to see one department handling the maintenance of town buildings, inclusive of all the schools, both inside and out. And, you know, I'm having those conversations, but it's, change is hard, so, but we're getting there.
That truck was put in by them at my recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply they didn't need the truck, I'm just
No,
saying
but
it's not-
that's good
not
to
an
know,
issue.
you know.
Yeah.
This-
Yeah, Chuck works very closely with all the departments, and, you know, he's got a handle on every vehicle, where it is, how many months it was with every department, and he's got a very comprehensive list going back a long period of time, and then projecting in the future as to what we need and why do we need a dump truck. And for many years, those vehicles got cut because we established a CNRE fund to save money for them. We put 50,000 aside, and then in 5 years you'd buy a dump truck. Well, that was always the
The
most,
first thing anyone would go to
the most
cut.
appealing thing to cut. So, well, we can do that next year.
Yeah.
So we went on the acquisition program where we got the vehicles, we paid for them and did 5-year payment plan, so that we're paying for 5. So every year we're starting a new 5-year payment plan, and every year we're reducing the payment plan from the year before. And it's been able to allow us to upgrade the vehicles, keep the budget relatively stable, and now we're getting to a point with I think one or two more dump trucks, and we're gonna be good for some time. I think the oldest dump truck is 93, 95?
Well, we
I
have
might as well come up.
we have capital coming up on the 27th.
Yeah. All right, so you don't want to talk about that
Yeah,
today?
the oldest current dump truck that we're using in my department to plow snow is a 2000. We do have a truck that we gave to the water department that's a 90, I believe it's 93.
Yeah.
But we always, in the past, have given them our oldest vehicle, just as they needed a vehicle, and rather than borrow ours, we gave them our vehicle. This year, we went the entire winter without a spare vehicle because we had to give them their hand-me-down quicker because they had problems with the truck they had. So we auctioned that truck off, put that money in the account that Anna set up, and then they're using my spare truck, and it's their truck now.
So that extra money that we're talking about for all the police and all that stuff comes from, that's how that money gets there.
And when you're
As well
talking,
as savings from the purchases.
when you're talking the number of dump trucks that we use, like in plowing and stuff, if we put it in on our schedule to replace them, basically, we're gonna be replacing a dump truck every year. And that keeps us in the point where the trucks aren't more than 12 or 13 years old. When I came here, we had trucks that were almost 30 years old. And we spent more time in the wintertime fixing them than we did plowing. We don't have that problem. We went the entire winter with only 2 major breakdowns. And they were just failures of parts. In this winter, that was a good thing.
So we'll bring all of that information on the night for capital, and Chuck gives you a presentation beginning. It's actually one of the more impressive budget presentations when you see how he's been able to figure it out and manage the vehicles. And we have over 100, vehicles that he's responsible for, including the police and outside of the apparatus that the fire marshal used, the fire department used. So,
Well-
did you want to add anything to this, or?
We'll see how
Do
he,
you have
we'll
any
see how he
questions?
does in a rough winter. We'll see how he does in a rough winter.
Yeah, no, it's whatever.
Wait,
We're a team.
Mr. Chairman, I just had one question on that. Line 211, which had highway, public works, so that 234 number is 4 salaries? Is that the office manager or the assistant? I'm just reading the notes in the back.
Yep, it's the director, the assistant public works director, and highway superintendent. That's
A-
Joe,
And,
Bill,
and the
and
office
Chuck.
manager? Office manager is not in there, or what's the reference to an office manager? Or is that?
Over on the left, Paul. Over on the left where, right after where it says 211.
That's the
Okay.
title of the account, the office manager
All
is
right.
not there.
So it's 3 people, and and just, again, for me, the percentage is what? What percentage goes to water?
25% of Mr. Burgos and 25% of
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Shears goes.
All right,
This is 100% Mr. Holyfield, 75%
Okay.
me, and 75%
Okay.
Mr. Shear.
thank you.
I just had just a few items, again, going to that same theme in the building maintenance, going back to the storm overtime, the 315. It is up 17,000, but that's really based on a 3-year average, and this year, with the brutal winter we had, it was right around that, so I'm hoping to get these budgets so that they're more in line with what they're coming in. The fuel, as Mr. Formica was saying, I've been watching every morning to try to, we basically now, because I came from Stonington, I reached out to them and we're pooling our fuel with them to get cheaper prices. So every day we're talking about, instead of us using 100,000, we're trying to throw out to the vendors. We have 200,000 gallons of diesel, so we're doing everything we can to try to get better pricing.
Now, we'll still get our fuel delivered here,
Oh,
and they'll
yeah.
still get their fuel delivered there.
We
but it's
break
just a
apart,
joint-
but you just
it'll
allow
be a
yourself
joint
to get better pricings when you have economies of scale.
How many vendors do you look at when you go through that process?
There's really 4 vendors. There's Santa Buckley Energy is Dime, there's East River Energy, and Dennis Burke, which Dennis Burke is the one that's been our vendor for the last 2 years. The problem is, it's a good thing for the town of East Lyme, but when that was locked in June of 2012, I think the unleaded fuel was locked in at $2.56. So, after taxes, it's $2.81. Well, right now, it's like $3.07, but, it can go up, because, in the next month or 2, it's gonna start marching up in the summer, so we really need to lock in soon, so we have some certainty as far as what our budgetary numbers are gonna be. I think that's, oh, and the last one is the storm materials. If you do notice, I tried to bump up that by $15,000, just because, being more reflective. In a given year, we usually use anywhere from 1,400 to 1,500 tons of salt. And that's reflective in this. Unfortunately, this year we used 3,000 tons of salt, so you can only imagine, we're gonna pick that all up on Town Aid Road. That is an essential thing, because that's a good number about what we use on an annual basis, about 1,400 tons, and about another 8,000 to 9,000 in plow blades.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll go to Information Technology, 109. Somebody needs to fix that.
I think Ron is doing the lights like that to make sure his building maintenance budget
Right.
gets funded.
Right.
I think that's what's happening there. That
Where's-
looks like we have
Where's our skilled carpenter?
we have a bulb out above your head there.
Yeah.
So you want me to turn those lights?
It's not bothering me unless it's
okay.
bothering someone at home.
Makes us look better on TV.
IT,
Strobe effect.
the database supervisor is Carmen, that reflects her salary there, and then the copier maintenance, we've got, we upgraded that whole copier program when I got here, and it's on a 5-year, is that right, Bill?
Yes.
5-year program, we got rid of all the miscellaneous copiers, we brought everything under one program, and then the maintenance of office equipment, that reflects an increase in the potential labor purchase for hourly rates for service technicians for the IT for the servers. Instead of paying emergency fees when we need it, we've identified a dollar value and we'll block out so many hours. Bill can talk about that. Bill is actually the direct supervisor of Carmen and works with this situation. You may or may not know that 2 weekends ago, our website was hacked and
Yeah, I saw
fairly
that.
well destroyed. So Carmen has spent the last 2 weeks trying to go back to a point in time and re-enter all the information that was lost.
I didn't
So,
think it was a time for an update, given it was budget season.
Yeah, Bill can talk a little bit about that 40,272 and then probably give you a little more detail on the website. But we need to come out of the dark ages with some of what we're doing with the IT. We have a big network, and the servers all needed work, so.
Hi, good evening. We basically have the infrastructure from the IT perspective of a very large corporation. I know we don't have that many people, but we have 11 servers. I believe 6 of them are virtual servers because of all the different applications that all the different departments have. The assessors has their own, tax collector has their own. Downstairs, we have 2 or 3 of our own. Planning has ArcView, GIS, the whole 9 yards. So we're basically akin to a very, very large corporation. And in the past, I know the last couple of budget seasons, we put a little bit of money aside to block hours for consultants, and we got a better rate. What's going on now is that we need to get somebody, we want to put out fires before they happen, rather than pay to put out the fires as it's going on. And we want to bring Star Computers in. They're a local company. We've used them in the past for many things. But in order to get decent rates, we can sign a contract with them for $75 an hour, which would basically give us 7.5 hours a week of their time. We wouldn't use them 1 day a week, but we would have that block of time. We'd pre-buy that, so that when something goes wrong, we pick up the phone, they're right here, or as a matter of normal business procedure, they would come in and just review what we've going on and update our systems, look for problems before they happen. Because when we have a problem, it's usually a big fire. Like Paul said, our website was hacked last week. They're still trying to figure out exactly what happened, but it was obviously somebody overseas that was not too fond of government in general. And they'd actually gotten in over a year ago into the system, put a bug in there or something. We don't exactly have a full knowledge of what happened. And they ruined the engine for the web page. Then the company that was hosting it on their server said, we can't restore the backup because this thing's been there for a year. So we had to go back a whole year and restore a year-old backup. So if you go on the website right now, you'll see information on there that's a year old.
Yeah, I didn't notice
So
that.
what's going on right now? We use Joomla. It's a web software. You don't pay anything for it. People all over the world just write the software. We actually had an old version, which was vulnerable. It's like Unix, it's a free software. So Carmen's in the process of getting the newest possible version of that, and she's writing a new web page and getting that ready. But in the meantime, we restored the one-year-old web page, and we've got people uploading articles. The good thing of the way we do our web page is we have 25 users, so anybody in the town hall can log in and update the web page. They can put all their own information out there, but there's a lot of information out there. So we're still, we've got the old one that's still vulnerable, and we're building a new one in the background. Hopefully within a week or so, we can have the new one up and running and prepared to go. Now, the thing is, though, we're using vendors that aren't necessarily local, and we just have an hourly contract with them, so we call them up and go, hey, can you help us? If they want to help us, they can help us. If they're busy, they don't have to help us. So that's why we wanted to move towards the service contract with Star. They're a local business. I've known them for 12 years I've been here. And with that level of commitment between the two of us, they will come immediately and help us with a problem. They could have come right in and helped us with the web page. I don't know if it would have been much better, but that's what we're looking for. We're essentially a big corporation here, and we should have moved to this level a couple of years ago, but we need to move there now. We want to put out the fires before they happen.
And their response time wouldn't be the same if they were on an hourly basis like the non-local vendors were?
They have a response contract. I don't remember. They're a local company.
Yeah.
They're gonna come. I know they're gonna come, so, you know.
What if they go over 7.5 hours per week on average? Does that affect the contract price, or we're locked in? whether
We're
we
locked
need
in
1
for
hour
that many
or
hours
20 hours?
for the year. No, it's a block of hours, but it's a
Okay, so-
yearly block of hours.
Okay, so we might use nothing in 1 month and 10 hours the next month.
Yes.
What happens when we hit the threshold
My
in a
goal,
given year?
my goal would be to not front load the system, try to stay a month behind all the time, so that if something happens, we can call them in. But there's always maintenance to be done.
Yeah.
So in case, for some reason, there's nothing burning, we can have them come in, review our system, upgrade softwares. So it's just one of those, you have to manage it, that's all,
Mhm.
and not go over. Or try not to go over. I think that's the only major, or the only increase on here. So it's time.
There isn't anybody else that works on IT other than Carmen, correct?
Carmen
She's
and
the
myself.
main-
Yep,
and-
Carmen's full-time, and
Mhm.
I cover, when she's on vacation, I cover the department. 5 or 6 years ago, I used to be able to do a lot more, but things are getting very complicated.
The Waters and Sewer Department's monopolizing Bill's time now.
Multi-talented.
Any further questions on IT? Seeing none, we'll move to Parks and Rec. It's really under 422, which is youth services.
You guys tricked me.
You all know Mr. Putnam?
Get this in there.
I don't think so.
I do too.
You know Dave?
Yeah.
How you doing, Dave?
Good, how are you? Good evening.
Dave has done a great job managing this department in times of a lot of growth and renovations to all the existing parks, but certainly the growth that we've experienced down at Cheney Park, and trying to look into the crystal ball and see what we need, and he's done a pretty good job to date, managing all that staff and the equipment and the fields, and so much so that we were just up at a turf convention where you may want to share, Ed Ball won the Turf Manager of the Year for New England, I believe.
Right, the New England Sports Turf Managers Association recognized our park foreman, turf specialist as Turf Manager of the Year. So that was a nice award before 300 people at the Providence Turf Show. So a nice kudos for our department, and just gives a recognition to one of my employees that does a tremendous job.
Mhm. Very good, congratulations.
So we have, with this department, you'll note the expenditures, but there's also a revenue discussion, and then some years ago, we changed over to a special revenue fund to take all the programs out of this budget. We used to have yoga instructors and dance teachers and language teachers in here that were paid for by user fees, and all it did was inflate the budget. So we took them out, put them in a special revenue fund. That is balanced and matched separately. You get a report 4 times a year, I believe. He comes to the Board of Finance, and he uses that to manage and either upgrade or downgrade programs. We're moving some of the senior center programs in there for the very same reason, and Dave manages both of those. Not only managing the programs within the community center, but the Park and Rec Department is the one who handles all the ground maintenance for all the town buildings, grasses and trees and shrubs, et cetera. And then they assist Joe and his department with snow removal and as needed on roads and also on sidewalks and things like that. So it's a busy, multi-talented department. That's why I say that these guys behind us are really the key to make the town run. And they do a great job collectively and as a team. Joe has instituted weekly meetings that bring all of these people together and have conversations so that everybody's becoming more and more on the same page, and it's really doing well. So I'll leave the rest of the budget to you, but I want to thank you for your hard work, as with everybody else behind me.
Thank you. Just, I wanted to point out, in my part-time seasonal line item, there is a significant increase there. That increase is the commission's goal to fully staff Cheney Park and the Niantic Bay Beach and Boardwalk on a daily basis. This past year, we did it on a 3-day-a-week basis, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. We saw a pretty significant increase in revenue, about $12,000 over last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with us having staff at that particular location, the Cheney Park location, on weekends and on Fridays. I truly believe we can fund that on a full-time basis through our revenues if we have staff there on a daily basis. So Monday through Thursday, to add lifeguards, gate attendants, boardwalk attendants, so that we're properly managing that. What a tremendous asset to the community now with the beach and the boardwalk there. So the Park and Rec Commission has also increased our season pass fees by $5. So they've gone from 10 to 15 for a senior rate, and it's the first time since 2002 that those have been increased. And a season fee has gone from 30 for a non-senior, from 30 to 35. So if our numbers stay the same, that's an increase of about $19,000.
But you say increase the staff, then nobody's paying at the beach, right?
Yeah, no, we project, I want to do that. That's something that we're going to work on doing, is that at each location, at the McCook, Hole in the Wall, and at Cheney Park, we do it a point of sale.
All right, so when
for
you say
day
cover
passes.
itself, if you're on there 3 or 4 more days, you think the revenue from people that are
So
just
it's not
going
gonna
on
be
there?
free from Monday to,
That is correct.
Thursday
Cheney,
anymore.
right, correct. We've
Cheney.
always charged at Hole in the Wall and
Right.
McCook. We just haven't had someone there to accept registration. I've been working with Anna to be able to take credit card, debit card payments there, to have portable machines and that kind of thing. So we're looking at doing point of sale. So we're not telling people they got to come to our office to buy a day pass.
or go to the
and
police
then come back.
station.
Right, well, we do it at the Hole in the Wall now.
Yeah.
Right, so we want to do it point of sale, right there. Collect the day pass fee is $5 for a resident, 20 for a non-resident.
Isn't
So
that
you started
volunteers
tra-
at Hole in the Wall that do that man that gate right
No.
now?
No,
That's not.
no, those are all paid, no, those are paid employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Our gate attendants are all paid, yeah.
what were some of the attendance numbers? Did you start tracking attendance numbers down there at Cheney, or?
We did on a daily, on the weekend basis, but it was really difficult on the basis that we weren't there. But, you know, we're talking probably about 20,000 people. You know, it's hard, it's difficult because we're not there all the time.
Right.
But when we did track it, you know, in and out, the boardwalk was extremely well used, especially with it being, you know, the first year that it was open,
Right.
so.
But you're not talking about point of sale to walk the boardwalk.
Well, that's something that we need to discuss, and my commission would like to do that. So what
Um,
they've done
Well,
is.
I don't know, we
I'm
can't
against
charge
that.
for the, we can't charge for the boardwalk,
No.
can we, because of the federal money? I mean, don't you have to do a split if they're going to the beach as opposed to
That's
just
what
doing the
we've-
boardwalk?
that-
I
Right,
guess
that's
it
what
would be
we've
hard
done.
to control,
That's why we need staff there.
right,
Well-
but.
Well, I thought the boardwalk was supposed to be free for people.
I would
Right, I
doing
think it
anything.
is.
against that.
Yeah.
I think it is too. And Dave and I have had this discussion.
Right. So,
Yeah,
my-
yeah. No, no,
Uh,
no. Jesus.
you know, Mike, I'm
I-
coming.
I know,
I
you're
work
a
for my
revenue
commission.
man.
I work for my commission.
Mm.
So my commission feels strongly that there could be a parking fee. You're not, and then if people were to walk in, then there would be no fee.
Yeah.
So the proposal is to do away with our walk-in passes. We used to have walk-in passes that if people parked outside, they could show a pass and get in. The commission
No
would like to do
walking,
away
no
with
walking passes?
no walk-in passes. That's the proposal.
So instead of
people
charging
can
for the
park
boardwalk,
outside.
he wants to charge for the
Or
park.
for
Right,
parking?
Correct. That's my, that comes from the park.
So
and
if
Rec.
somebody walks in, you don't need a walking pass?
I'll attend the lynching
Yeah, but
when
they
you're
gotta
out
park
there, but you
somewhere.
know.
They do have to park
Park
somewhere, but
somewhere.
here's what I would propose. I think we should fund this staffing level this year. This is really the first full year we've had this operational.
And
Let's
monitor
not
it.
worry so much about the revenue at this point. We're talking about $20,000, maybe $30,000. And see where we are, see what the demands are, keep a track, keep a log. We want to put some dinghy docks down there and bring some people from across the sea there into our
And
river.
there'll be a charge,
and
right,
do
for a
that.
mooring?
But the moorings will be charged separately. That's a different
So
animal.
there's no free parking
But-
a boat for 2 hours.
But let's fund the park and seasonal maintenance and monitoring people. And then at the end of the year, Dave will be able to say, there's X number of people came in. This is the number of hours we had to put people in the gate, on the boardwalk, on the beach. This is how many lifeguards we actually needed. And then we can go back and see and have that discussion in the off-season in terms of revenue. And I'm willing to go to the Park and Rec and make my feelings known on that.
I'm sorry for the outcry, Dave. That was just a little shocking to me, but I do appreciate your efforts to try to generate revenue for the town. I
Right.
just don't really think that might be the best way to do it.
I'll bring that back to the Park and Rec Commission. They're the ones that set policy and fees, so.
Okay.
Send them in
Is there
here.
any chance for getting any Amtrak money for the beach or the boardwalk or?
First things
For-
first.
Okay.
We're trying to get the track flagmen, and they're part of the deal on the other boardwalk, so we're still working with that, but most likely not.
Dave, how about, didn't we fund the gator and the rake and everything else for that new beach?
What a great,
How-
what a
how-
great tool we have.
How's that worked out?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That beach, if you had a chance to go down to that beach, besides the hole in the wall with the sand there, that's the nicest beach around. Once we groom that, it's great. That's a big beach. That takes us 2 to 2.5 hours to groom that beach on a daily basis.
Is the commission gonna allow dogs down there, or is
Yeah,
that
can
changed?
you talk
I
about that
can
new
sure.
law with
There's
the
a state
dogs?
regulation that says that any area that's adjacent to a designated swim area, you cannot have domestic animals.
Right.
So we're gonna have to, we're gonna post that. We're gonna post actually the state regulation down there that says that. So from Memorial Day to Labor Day, the dog regulation or policy will be the same as it is as McCook and Hole in the Wall, where no pets from Memorial Day to Labor Day.
Big changes since last year.
Big change, but it is a state regulation. We are
Yeah.
I
kind of
think somebody
handcuffed with
brought that state regulation to our attention,
Oh.
who may have not been a pet lover, and so,
That's because somebody probably didn't pick up after them.
yeah.
With the condition that we expect